The questions. For millennia, people have speculated about the ultimate source of the universe, and philosophers and scientists from different fields have offered various cosmogonies to describe its origin. Although none has succeeded in developing an absolute explanation covering their points of view, they all have agreed that the idea of the world coming from nothing is certainly not cogent. Faced with this acceptance, most philosophers and scientists have been compelled to agree with the idea that something at the beginning had given rise to the universe's creation. Since it seems inescapable to conclude that such a something must somehow be self-contained and aware, we have no other choice than to call it consciousness. Consciousness was the ineffable reality that has always existed, exists, and will always exist. It was the cause of all creation and the source of life. It was independent of the concept of existence and essence, incommensurable and incomprehensible. Consciousness was at the beginning. In it resided all that was compulsory for the multiverses, collections of realms inhabited by entities, to come into materialization. Every universe was kept separate from every other by the seventh dimension of reality. Those multiverses were governed by beings called historians. Each historian was in charge of a collection of universes, that is to say, a multiverse. The universe of Earth was part of a type of multiverse called the family. Consciousness, through its own power of will, engendered functions and relations, which, consequently, generated worlds in which an external and an internal component existed. Consciousness, so to speak, was transcendental to all. Consciousness gave rise to everything through rudimentary mathematical definitions. Through a point, all the dimensions were formed, universes with their galaxies emerged, as well as complex sentient entities that laid claim to them. Thus, all of the cosmoses rose into being and gave existence to many varieties of creatures with their own territories, communication systems, and essences. However, the history of creation did not end with its evolution. It carried on to a notion that we are all accustomed to: good versus evil. In general, people believe that evil emanates from knowledge, and as the world goes on, this aphorism seems to be based on hard evidence. Every day, we wake up and we weep and smile, we laugh and cry, we succeed and fail. However, what would it mean for a day to carry in itself the most sinister spectacle of evil domination on Earth? In the story you are about to read, a human being's ambition to acquire more understanding about existence ignites great evil in countless realities. This story is not merely a story, it is reality in the sense of realities. This reality is a reality that cannot be tested, but evidence is often asked for by those who argue against an unfamiliar idea. At any rate, let's scrutinize the following question: what if you were to wake to find that there was more to know than what you know about your surroundings and existence? What would you do? The answers might vary, but one thing is certain: the possibility of you waking up to discover more about your world is inevitable. At certain points in life, one feels like there is a mysterious component to life because of questions that arise but to which one never receives an answer. One such question is one of the most interesting questions of all time: why are we here? The answer to this question might be heavier than it seems, but if we seek it, there is no guarantee we can't find the answer, nor is there any that we can. There are billions of humans anxious to find a purpose to life, but the answers seem too trivial to accept as truth. What if the answer can be found in exploring the world of consciousness? What if consciousness is the handle of the door and our insights are the key? What if the question of why we're here is not without an answer? Now, the complexity of the answer becomes more intense as we multiply our questions. Nevertheless, a more crucial question might be: what is an answer? Alternatively, what does it mean to have an answer if the answer exists? The most important subject for scrutiny might be the fact that some answers are not necessarily adequate, according to logic. When this happens, should we just throw them away, or should we continue digging into the idea that breathes fire into those answers? Let this story attempt to answer those intriguing and profound questions.